Okay, today we're going to be taking a look at my favorite beater watch in my collection. We're going to look at the Nixon Ranger 44. Let's check it out. Okay, so this is a watch that you guys have probably seen in some of my videos. I've used it a lot as a model to check out straps and different comparisons. It's very similar to actually the very first watch that I reviewed on this channel. I picked up a Nixon Ranger 45 and I got it for a great price on Amazon, and I really liked it. And then I saw this version, which is the 44. Which I think is a little bit newer one. I'm not sure. It's a little bit different. And I liked it. It was like all of the complaints that I had about the Nixon Ranger 45, which was, it didn't have a date. It didn't have a timing bezel, which I kind of liked. And it didn't have any lume on the dial. It had lume on the hands, but not the dial. And I felt like those were all missed opportunities. And then I discovered that the Nixon Ranger 44 existed, and it had exactly all of those features, or at least there was one version that did. So now most of the Rangers, they don't have lume on the dial, but there is one that does, and that's this version that I was able to find. So this one, it has it has a great lume dial, has a unique dial layout, which I think is a little bit different than most, has a kind of a different case design, has a 100-meter water resistance, so pretty tough, does not have a threaded screw-down crown, but still 100-meter water resistance, and it seems to hold up well underwater. And it has a timing bezel on it, which we'll get to, so it's not a count, it's not an elapsed time bezel, it's a timing bezel, so it's a countdown timer. So you can set it to like 20 minutes, and then it'll tick down. It'll tell you how many minutes are left until 20 minutes, until it gets down to 0. So it's a little bit different than your typical one. And I found some situations where I would have preferred to have an elapsed timing bezel to know how much time has passed since I started the timer. But then there's other times where it's great. It's like I need to set a timer for 30 minutes, and I can know, well, how much time is left until I get to 30 minutes. You can use them both for either situation. Just have to do more math in your head. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get into it, and let's take a look at the watch and see some of the features of it. So Nixon is a brand that I don't think I've seen get a lot of coverage by many of the other watch YouTubers out there, and I think the reason for that is because they would definitely fall into the fashion watch category. However, I think they're kind of an interesting fashion watch brand, primarily because their target audience is geared towards people with more active lifestyle. And because of that, their watches, even though they are largely fashion pieces, and that's maybe their prime thing, they're very sturdily built, and most of their watches are going to have at least 100-meter water resistance, because their target audience are people who are very active. They target people who are into surfing and skating, hiking. They're a company that's based out of California, and so that's sort of the kind of watch that they wanted to make. And so I feel like they have a lot of really unique designs that they're not just like mass producing a bunch of cheap watches that are sort of uninspired. They kind of have their own unique feel to them. They're very sturdily built. The problem that I have with them is that their retail prices I think are too high for what they offer. Most of what they offer are quartz watches. I think they have a few automatic pieces, but those are generally pretty expensive and probably not worth it. However, you're going to pay a premium for the brand if you pay retail. But one of the things that I really like about Nixon is that you can find some really good deals on their watches on places like Amazon, eBay, and even if you go into stores like TJ Maxx, you'll often find them heavily discounted. And at the discounted prices, I feel like they're just an amazing buy. So today we're looking at the Nixon Ranger, which is kind of Nixon's field watch design. They say it's sort of a military-inspired look. This particular one is the Nixon Ranger 44, so they have 3 sizes. They have a 40, 44, and a 45. The 40 and the 45 Both do not have a bezel, like a rotating bezel on it. They're more simpler designs. The 44 is the one that has the most features, and that one there's a lot of variations. You can get different complications. Some of them are chronographs, some of them have GMT hands. This particular one does not have anything other than the date complication and the unidirectional bezel. It does have a 120 click unidirectional bezel, but this is a timing bezel, so it's not a count. It's not an elapsed time bezel. It's a countdown timer, which is kind of cool. I'll show you how that works in a minute. But this one, it's kind of, I really like the look of it. It has the kind of a unique case shape. It's sort of like, I think this would be called sort of like a cushion shape. So it's not just a completely round case. It's got a little bit more angles on it. The crown is at 4 o'clock, which I think is nice and comfortable. I like it there. It's got some good little crown guards on it. And then the dial is very interesting. So this one, they have the numbers, the large numbers that are very easy to read on the even numbers on 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 o'clock. And then they have just a circle marker at 12 o'clock. And I haven't seen that on many other watches, so it kind of has a really unique look to it when you look at the dial, but it is still easy to read. And yeah, I really like that. This particular model has lume on the dial, so not all the Rangers do. In fact, most of the other ones I've seen, I don't think they do have the lume on it. But this one, that was another feature of this particular model. And the lume does look really good when it's all lit up. They put a lot of lume on the dial, so the hands, including the second hand, have lume. The applied marker at 12 o'clock, all the numbers, even the chapter ring is lumed as well. So it looks really cool. This one, dimensions obviously 44 millimeter diameter case. I think it's about 12 millimeters thick, and has, I believe it's a Miyota quartz movement, which again, typical of Nixon's watches, that they have quartz movements. This one has a 100 meter water resistance. It has a push-in crown, not a screw-down crown, so that would be nice if it had the screw-down crown, but still 100 meter water resistance. And on this one you get a really nice strap. It's got this, I believe it's a Horween leather strap. It looks like it's kind of like an oiled leather, which probably gives it some water resistance and kind of a distressed vintage look. It's actually one of the best stock straps that I've gotten on any watch. I tend to take the strap off and put it on some of my other watches because I really like it a lot. And particularly with this Ranger having the 100 meter water resistance, I really like to keep it on a nylon NATO strap to give it a little bit more water resistance. I think it looks really good. The kind of military inspired looks of this, putting it on a NATO strap, it just matches really well. And so I tend to keep this primarily on a nylon NATO strap, so I can get it wet and use it. Again, I use it kind of like a beater watch, where it's it's a pretty tough watch, looks good, and I really wind up wearing it a lot because of that, because I think it can kind of take a beating, and I don't have to worry about it getting smashed or damaged. Some of the unique things about this watch, I think two things in particular. One is the lug system. So it doesn't use a typical spring bar. It has these screw-in bars to hold the strap in. So the downside of that is going to be that it's not compatible with quick release spring bars, because it doesn't use spring bars. In fact, there's a bar that actually screws in, and it has so you have to have a special hex screwdriver to change the strap out. So it's not compatible with all straps. You have to be careful that the strap has wide enough opening, because the bar on this is slightly thicker than a regular spring bar. So it's not compatible with all straps. But as you can see, to take it in and out, I think it uses about a 2 millimeter hex screw, and that's what I use. And the benefit to that is that it's actually a lot more secure, and I kind of like it. There's a lot less chance of the spring bar failing or popping out. It's in there really securely. It's screwed in very nicely. Changing it is a little bit more difficult, but I think it's kind of worth it, and I really like the feature. You just have to be careful, again, making sure you get a strap that fits it. But it works great for NATOs. It gives you enough. There's plenty of space to slip a NATO in there really easily, and if you're keeping it on NATO straps, You don't have to worry about screwing and unscrewing anything anyways, and it's just a really smooth, secure bar, and I just feel like it's just a much sturdier system than the typical spring bars. And again, for a field watch like this, I think that's just a great feature to have. The other interesting thing about this one is that it has a countdown timer. So the way that works is you can set, you move the number. Let's say you're going to do like a 15-minute countdown. So you got to time something that you want to know when 15 minutes has passed. So you spin the 15 on the dial to wherever the minute hand is, and then it's going to count down, and it'll tell you, if you look at the minute hand, it's going to tell you how many minutes are left until you get to 15, until 15 minutes have elapsed, and it'll be when it hits the arrow, it'll be at 15. So you can count down up to 1 hour, and it'll track that, and I find that very useful. So I use it almost every time I'm wearing this watch. I find myself, there's something I've got to sort of time, and it's really easy to just spin this around and time it. There have been occasions where I've wished it was the opposite, where I just want to know how much time has passed, and if that's what you want to track, it's harder to read that way. You can, if you juggle the math in your head a little bit, you can do that. But I feel like for most of the time, using a timing bezel where it's a countdown timer is actually more useful. So those are two of the unique features on this watch that, I think are kind of cool, and again, I really like. Some of the things that I don't like about this watch, so the lume, I think it looks great when it is lit up, and when you get it in the dark, I think it looks really cool, with this particular dial layout and with the lume on the hands and even on the second hand, you can see a lot. That said, it's not the brightest lume in the world. It's not terrible, but it's not, it's not as good as, say some of the Seiko watches or some of the, other watches I have that have, better lume. I think the Bulova Marine Star has better lume. The Citizen Nighthawk's lume is a little bit better. This one, the lume doesn't last as long. It does last a pretty long time. Again, it's not like the kind of lume that where it lasts 5 minutes and goes away. You're going to get probably a good hour or so where it's still going to be readable in the dark, but it does fade and it's not as bright as some of the other ones. The other con on this one is the retail price is high. It's about $250 if you buy it on Nixon's website, but I'll show you some places or talk about some places where you can get it for much cheaper and tell you where I got that in a second. But the one other con that on this one is, I would say, not having a screw down crown. I would prefer it did, but it seems to be totally fine. 100-meter water resistance, and I haven't had a problem getting this one wet, so that doesn't seem to be that big of a deal. If you do want to buy this watch, I would not suggest buying it from Nixon's website. Again, I'd save the money. If you want, and that's sort of the thing, there's like a whole lot of variations of this one. And so if you go on Amazon and search for Nixon Ranger, you're going to find, just dozens of different kinds, again, in the 3 different sizes with different complications, and the prices are going to be all over the place. So if you're not that particular about exactly which one you can get, you can find a really good deal just doing that. In fact, I think you can find this exact one for about $83 on Amazon right now, which is a great price, I think, for this. Where I got mine, I actually bought mine at TJ Maxx, and I've seen this exact one at a couple of TJ Maxxes in the last couple months. So you might check that as well. And when I got it there, I got it for $50, which I think is just an amazing price for this watch. Again, it's just a really well-built watch with some really cool features on it, and I really like it. So I would definitely check that out as well. Also on eBay, apparently, a lot of times you can find some sellers on eBay have new ones for a pretty reasonable price. Again, if you're not that particular on the exact model of this watch that you get, you can get a better price. But if you want this particular one, I'll put a link to it on Amazon. I think it's about $83 right now, and I've seen it, down as low as $50 sometimes. So you can check that. But that, I think, about wraps up the Nixon Ranger. Again, really nice looking watch, really tough. And, again, maybe it's a fashion watch brand, but I think it's still just a really great watch with some really cool features that I really enjoy, and I use a lot. It's one of my favorite watches, and I wear it all the time, so definitely recommend it. And with that, let's go ahead and wrap up the review. All right, so that has been my review of the Nixon Ranger 44. I encourage you guys to look around. I've seen some great prices for it recently, both on Amazon and on eBay. I'll try and put some links below. and see if you guys can pick one up if you are interested. I think it's a great looking watch, great little field watch, good water resistance, and yeah, again, it's one of my favorite watches. It's probably the watch that I wear most often for those kind of rugged situations where I'm afraid to get one of my nicer looking watches nicked up or scratched. But yeah, again, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe, like the video if it interests you, and yeah, we'll keep on bringing you more, and hopefully this is something that you guys enjoy watching. So we'll talk to you later.